Hello everyone. Why India is often compared with East Asia when talking about GDP growth? East Asian economies were developing countries just a few decades ago with low per capita income like India today. This journey shows how countries can transform from agriculture to industrial to high tech economies in a few decades. India is currently at a stage where policy choices could determine whether it follows a similar path. India became a low middle income country in 2007 and 8 and is currently on a track to become an upper middle income country by 2032. Let's take a look of the top 20 countries with the largest GDP in 2025. US holds the first position by holding around 30 trillion USD and China is the second largest economy around 19 trillion where India holds the fourth position. This statistic shows the growth of the real GDP in India from 2020 to 2024 with projections up until 2030. The growth rate varies roughly between 6 to 7 percentage. In 2023, almost half of India's GDP was generated by service sector, a slight and steady increase over the last 10 years. Service sector includes telecommunication, IT and software. This clearly shows the distribution of GVA across India in 2025 by sectors, where manufacturing holds 14% and construction holds only 9% of our total GDP. Why we are comparing with East Asia? Because these are the countries achieved the rapid industrialization and transformed from low income to high middle income economies in a short span. With respect to GDP per capita, China is 6x than India. The value added by the manufacturing sector to GDP varies significantly across different countries worldwide. In 2023, the manufacturing sector in China added nearly 4.8 trillion US dollars to the country's GDP, while this value in the United States amounts to about 2.8 US dollars in the same year. In 2022, Israel invested around 6% of the country's GDP into research and development, the highest worldwide. In South Korea, the expenditure of R&D reached over 5% of its GDP. Let's take a look at HCRAI index. It is used in research to compare how much a country invests in human capital in advance relative to what might be expected based on its income and GDP. South Korea tops the list. With respect to female labor force participation, among the emerging market economies, India holds only 35% of women participated in the labor force, whereas in China and South Korea, more than 50 to 60% of women are participating in their labor force. In the past slide, we saw the major countries' contributions in manufacturing sector, R&D spending, female labor participation, and human capital investments. In India, the share of the firms involved in international trade has been declining in the years prior to pandemic across the manufacturing and service sector. As a result, Indian firms exhibit modest level and relatively low adoption of cutting-edge technologies like Industry 4.0. More than government regulations or weak infrastructure, it appears that main constraint to technology adoption is the lack of skilled labor and weak access to finance. India can't copy paste the East Asia model, but selective adoption is possible. Here are the major recommendations for our sustained growth. Promoting structural transformation, trade, and the infusion of modern technology and business practices. Improving learning outcomes further. Structural transformation requires a workforce with the required skills and human capital to transition from low to high productivity activities over time. Deepening financial sector reforms to boost credit and investment, facilitating the timely recognition of financial risk. Given the evolution of financial linkages between NBFCs and the rest of the finance system, establishing a centralized systematic risk database and developing advanced risk assessment tools will enable better and more timely supervision of financial sector risk. We can follow like Chables or Keiretsu. With respect to MSMEs are our critical contributors to output and employment. They hold around 36% of manufacturing output and 45% of our country's export, but their growth is constrained by substantial financial gaps. The policy inconsistencies between the state and center should be formulated in the areas such as tourism and manufacturing. With respect to agro processing industry, binding constraints include restrictive labor regulations, unavailability and adequate shortage, distribution facilities, land constraints, unreliable supply of power and water, and there is an inadequate quality of road infrastructure. This hybrid growth model with services, modernizing manufacturing, and digital economy might be the India's solution for the future sustained growth. Thank you.